We're here at the Mackinac Policy Conference, and we have the pleasure of being joined by the Lieutenant Governor, Garlin Gilchrist II. Not just Lieutenant Governor, but also vying to be the next governor of the state of Michigan.
Yes, sir.
How's the campaign going so far?
Well, it's going great. It's good to be back here with you on the island. The campaign's going well. I think we have a good story to tell about Michigan's future, and I'm excited to, build upon my service as Lieutenant Governor alongside Governor Whitmer. And that service has been grounded in my experience as a problem solver and an engineer, a person who is willing to go everywhere and meet people where they are. People know I'm from Detroit. But what they may not know is that I've been to all 83 counties in Michigan 3 or more times. Like when I say have gained an understanding through listening of what the people of Michigan are excited about and what they're anxious about, like I've gained that from connecting with them and then delivering solutions to their challenges. And so that's what I want to do as governor is build the future.
What are some of the concrete wins that you've gained as Lieutenant Governor that you are relaying to the people as you travel across the state that'll, hopefully get them on board with you as the next governor?
I mean, I think about this is aligned with the issues that I hear people saying are most important to them: housing, healthcare, jobs, and prices. And so on housing, we've had a housing shortage in Michigan for a long time. But when I heard about that, I learned that we had a housing trust fund program, basically a fund to support affordable housing in Michigan. It had been on the shelf for decades and nobody ever used it. Well, as an engineer, nothing frustrates you more than a process that doesn't work and a tool that will be effective but hasn't been used. So I drove an investment into that fund, and now we built 40,000 new housing units in the last 3 years. I drove that, and that more homes available and being built and brought online means more affordability because the prices come down. You've also done programs for first-time home buyers, trying to change that reality about the fact that, still just less than 10% of people who buy homes for the first time are single men. Did you know that? We need to bring more of those stuff online and have programs and people to be able to get in those homes and build the wealth that they need. I'm also proud on the healthcare front, particularly mental health. So Cass Lake High School won this football championship this year, right? Well, the team came to Lansing and asked to meet with me. And so I asked them, what do you want to talk about? Mm-hmm. And what they said to me, basically, before I finished my question, that we are concerned about our frenzies' mental health. Well, hearing something like that, I'm struck and had to act. And so I worked with Senator Debbie Stabenow before she retired to bring online something called the Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinic Program. We opened 40 new clinics across Michigan, a bunch of them in Southeast Michigan, that will serve you for your mental health. It's like urgent care for mental health, regardless of your ability to pay, regardless of whether you have insurance, but you can have somebody to talk to when you're in crisis. You talk to them instead of talking to law enforcement. Like it's something that brings the care to people in communities. That hasn't been available in Michigan because we had disinvested in that as a state for 30 years. So when I'm talking to people, when I'm talking about the Cass Tech football team, people who want to afford homes in Metro Detroit and all across Michigan, like I've delivered solutions for them to make the future more available.
K-12 is another huge issue in where Michigan ranks in terms of education throughout the nation. And, we've been trending downward for the last couple of decades in terms of where we rank nationally. What do we need to do, and what would you do if you elected as governor to bring Michigan back on an upward trajectory and where we rank nationally in terms of education?
Well, look, I got to start. I mean, I'm a husband and a dad first before I'm a public servant. And my kids all 3 of them are in Detroit public schools. Like this, my twins are finishing the 6th grade. My baby girl's finishing kindergarten. I say that because this issue of how we can improve our outcomes in K-12 education is not a theoretical exercise to me. This is a clear and urgent one. I want that to be solved because I want every parent to experience what I've experienced when I overheard my baby girl sounding out words independently. You have never heard a sweeter song than blended letter sounds, man. And so if you ask any teacher, what would it take to make the kids in your class learn nerd? Every single one of them has a direct and specific answer to that question. They know exactly what they need to do. We need to make sure that they have not only the resources, but also the ability to do the things that they know work and make that easier for them to do. And to make it so that if they know something isn't working, they can pivot away from it to the thing that does. We tried to solve the resource question, and that even in the state budget that we approved this year is going to have $10,000 per student expended. That's the highest we've ever had in Michigan. Every year me and Governor Ward have been in office, we've had the biggest investment in public education in the history of the state of Michigan. So that's of the investment. Now we got to work on the outcomes. And those education professionals need to know that we have confidence in them to do it. Because again, any teacher will tell you what it takes to get a kid to learn to read. So we've done the thing to change the curriculum to make sure we have built those, or have those curriculum hindrances. And I think now we're going to see the results start to come in.
We've got not just a gubernatorial election coming up next year, but we've got Senate, we've got so many House races.
Yeah.
We've got city of Detroit.
Yeah.
All this, I mean, Michigan is all eyes are on Michigan right now for so many outcomes. How important are these elections when we talk about where Michigan lands in the national landscape? And what would be your message to people to get out and vote so that they can truly have an impact on what their leaders look like and how we represent and show up nationally?
Well, look, for people in Michigan, look, nothing has ever improved by not engaging. Nothing ever gets better. And I believe that the people of our state have the ability to shape the future that we want. It doesn't just happen to us. We can make something happen to decide how we're going to go forward as a group of people in a collection of communities. And so what I would ask is it to folks to think about the things that matter to them. And whatever that might be healthcare for you, because you might have an aging parent or family member. That might be, jobs in the economy because you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to make sure that the state of Michigan is the best place to launch your business. So I would tell you to go get some money from that Michigan Innovation Fund that I launched earlier this year. But whatever something is that's important to you that you want to see, you can help make that happen. And it'll be the path to it will be more straightforward by participating in the political process, by making sure we have elected leaders at every level, city, county, state, federal, who are aligned with your interests and your goals because the success that you want to see, and they can help make things happen for you. Because you'd rather have a system that supports your success than one that fights against it. Because Lord knows, we are seeing from this Trump administration and all his imitators in Michigan, these people are not interested in individual people's prices coming down. They're not interested in Black businesses growing. They are not interested in these things. But you can instead have leaders at the Michigan level. You can have me as a governor who has done the work to increase the share of disadvantaged entrepreneurs and enterprises that are taking advantage of state government contracts to a level that's never been in the history of the state of Michigan, which is a great pathway to grow a business. So I think we have agency, we have power, and I want people to participate in the political process because politics is going to happen to them. They might as well make something happen then.
How do you balance doing two things at once right now where you are currently still responsible for your roles and responsibilities and duties as lieutenant governor, but you're also vying for the highest seat in the state? What's that balance look like for you?
I mean, I have to take care of my responsibilities, and I think it is important to demonstrate competence in your current role before you ask for a new job. And so I'm doing that. And even here up on this island, I've made 4 important announcements. This morning, I announced an historic investment from consumers and DTE Energy in partnership with the Community and Worker Transition Office in our State Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. That's a $3.5 billion investment from the utility companies to invest in their Michigan-based supply chain that is growing the opportunities for Michigan-based companies to sell their goods, their services, resources to the 2 biggest utility companies in the state of Michigan to grow our clean energy future, and we'll have workers to be able to make that transition. I announced a housing program called the Housing Tax Increment Finance Program yesterday that will lead to one of our home builders in Michigan increasing the number of homes they build in Michigan by 30% every year for the next 10 years. I'm announcing programs like that. What I say is that I am still doing the work on behalf of the people of Michigan, because that is what a lieutenant governor, and frankly, what a governor needs to be able to do. And also, as a candidate, I want to build on that foundation and show people that this kind of results-oriented leadership who can deliver on the things that matter to people is what we need in this moment at a time when people are frustrated with the lack of progress and when our values are being trampled upon by a president and a federal administration. We need somebody who can get things done and who can stand on our values and stand on business, frankly, and say, look, you are not going to attack our state or our people or our universities without going through me. Yeah, that's the energy you need to have.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the administration in Washington right now, there was a new statistic that showed Michigan is the number one most impacted state in the country from the tariffs. And 4 of the 7 most impacted states are all located in the Midwest along that, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan kind of belt line there. How do you as governor, if elected to the seat, how would you combat that knowing that to a degree your hands would be tied? But, we've seen Governor Whitmer try to reach across and, massage some relationships to get things done, like what happened at Selfridge. How would you go about making or improving upon that relationship if you were elected as governor?
The governor of Michigan's responsibility is to protect and promote the interests of the people of Michigan and our economy. And Governor Whitmer is doing that and has done that and gotten results. And so I think it speaks to the fact that people in Michigan respond well to a results-oriented leader, someone who can get things done on the things that matter. I think these tariffs are how the way they're implemented. Look, free trade hasn't been implemented in a way that's been good for the people of Michigan. That's true for the last 30 years. I also do not trust this administration. They have not even articulated a clear goal for what these tariffs are supposed to accomplish. And I for damn sure don't trust them to be able to actually execute in a competent way to be able to achieve whatever goal they come up with. And so what I would demand is, what are you trying to do? Who are you trying to serve? And then enter into a conversation about, is what you're proposing actually going to get that done? And if it's not, bringing to bear the voices of the people of Michigan, the workers of Michigan, the companies of Michigan, the leaders of Michigan, bringing them to bear in that conversation to represent what our state needs, because that's the job of the governor. So I will lead with that. And frankly, look, I learned how to do that in the part of my career after I left the private sector and became the community organizer. That the people who are dealing with the challenges are the people who understand the answers to the question. And so we need to have them be central in that work.
Knowing that so many people in the state of Michigan voted for Donald Trump as the leader of the country, and many of them still agree with a lot of his policies to date, how do you sway those Michigan voters to say, okay, I understand that Lieutenant Governor is not in agreement with so many of the things that Donald Trump does. We agree with him, but we will elect him to serve us as governor.
I don't think that those voters voted explicitly to gut Medicaid and take health care from children and pregnant women. I don't think they did that. Almost 25% of people in Michigan get their health care through Medicaid. 42% of babies born in Michigan, those mothers get their health care and those babies get their health care from Medicaid. I don't think the people voted for that. When you got, so whether it's this administration, but you got members of Congress, John James voted to kick 182,000 people off of their health care in his own congressional district. So I think that the people of Michigan want results that are actually going to improve their lives. They want a government that's actually going to be effective. When this administration's approach has simply been, who can we hurt? Who can we fire? How do we do so we can pay for tax cuts for rich people and big companies? I don't think the people have voted, though, for more sick children and sick pregnant women. I don't think they voted for that. And so what I'm offering is a vision that says that, the future of the state of Michigan is big enough for all of us to have a path to health and wealth, and that we can work on that and work toward that together. And if they see me as a results-oriented leader who has gotten things done and can get more done, I think they're willing to support those results, because the maybe frustrating before from federal level is what opened them up to being lied to by Donald Trump. But I'll tell them the truth about what's possible and what we can do.
One last thing I want to touch on here. Detroit mayoral race. We've got a debate tonight here on the islands. You've worked with Detroit leadership throughout your entire tenure as a lieutenant governor. What advice would you give to the next leader of Detroit in order to ensure successes in their tenure?
Yeah, I think that you cannot lead people who you do not meet. I think that it is critical that folks go out, like candidates need to do doors. Okay. We need to go knock on people's doors all over Detroit. You individually, we all have teams, and teams are going to knock on doors, and that's critical to success. But I think the candidate who is able to spend as much time with Detroiters one-on-one, having direct in the mud conversations, I think that person will have a sense and a center of what the people of the city of Detroit are hungry for. And so I would just encourage them that when in doubt, spend time with people directly. When you got a moment, find a way to spend that moment at a Detroit resident. That'll center you, that'll guide you, and help you make the right choice for the city. And I think that as a Detroit resident, that is important.
And from a man whose name has been on a ticket that's won a couple statewide elections, I think that's great advice.
You learned a few things.
Well, LG, we appreciate you as always stopping by.
Of course.
Taking time with the Michigan Chronicle. Best of luck in this campaign season. Appreciate it. Keep doing the work.
Always happy to be here. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.